Welcome in, this is episode 1 of ARR Abridged. I will be doing my best to summarize the story of Final Fantasy Online. If you're anything like me, you probably just skip through all the dialogue when you're first playing the game, which is completely forgivable because it is an absolute mountain of dialogue. And with there being so much text to cover, I think I can actually forgive Square Enix for not voice acting all of it, but it's definitely a great story either way. I would be selling them short if I didn't mention how good the soundtrack is as well. But let's get settled in here and we'll start off with the setting of the game, most of which takes place in the land of Eorzea, on the planet Hydaelyn. Hydaelyn is home to many countries and ways of life similar to ours. This world is not immune to the struggles that we face as well. Over the years, Eorzea has struggled with times of scarcity, but also eras of carefree freedom. The story starts with the Garlean Empire invading Eorzea from the north. The armies of Eorzea banded together to defend their homeland. Little did they know the Garleans devised a way to send the moon on a collision course for the planet. But what they thought was a moon was not a moon at all. It was actually a space-bound prison that was housing a dragon-like creature named Baphomet. And just before this prison struck the planet, he broke free. This was as much of a surprise to the Garleans as it was to the Eorzeans, and Baphomet decimated everyone. This event is what came to be known as the Calamity. Understandably, both the citizens of Eorzea and the Garleans were in a state of shock for quite some time, but eventually they began to slowly rebuild their world. This whole sequence is not only a pretty entertaining story, but it also works as a plot device for the re-release of this game. By wiping the slate clean with a cataclysmic event, the developers were able to start fresh and right all the wrongs of the original release, which had a myriad of issues from what I understand. When you create a new character, you're greeted by a dream sequence, with a female voice repeatedly saying, "Hear, feel, think." Then a hooded figure appears and your character is donned with an impressive set of armor. Both the characters strike at each other and then you wake up. Depending on what type of character you create, you start out in one of 3 cities, each of which having their own sprawling beginning story. However, regardless of where you start, you're guided to an adventurer's guild. You are then greeted by a mentor, who explains that the Garleans are still up to their old tricks, and that the aftershocks of emotion from the calamity are still present. And sadly, no one can remember any of the names of the brave warriors that fought against the Garleans that day. So those brave souls are just referred to as Warriors of Light. Your mentor then gives you some tasks to help you acclimate to the new surroundings. You are introduced to the Aetheryte crystal system, which is Eorzea's favorite form of interdimensional travel. Don't even bother asking about how that really works. As far as I can tell, it's just magic. One of your first tasks is to locate a runaway member of nobility named Lady Lilira. You eventually find her praying underneath a giant tree. A white-haired gentleman shows up just after you. He seems to know Lady Lilira very well and is very concerned for her well-being. But Lady Lilira is hell-bent on completing whatever secret tasks she had came there to do, and tells this white-haired man to pretty much get lost. He assures her he will do no such thing and ensure her safe return to the city. He further explains that it's not safe for anyone to be outside alone, and there's some supernatural occurrence happening. It's almost as if the dead are watching them at all times. And almost as if this man spoke it into existence, a winged creature starts attacking them. Your character helps in the battle and you are victorious, and you find a crystal on the ground. As soon as you touch the crystal, a vision is triggered, in which your character is standing in the middle of some sort of symbol. We hear this voice again saying, "Hear, feel, think," as one of the 6 circles of the symbol lights up. The mysterious voice refers to you as a crystal bearer. A floating crystal comes towards you and introduces itself as Hydaelyn. It then explains that the power to get rid of this dark supernatural force lies within the crystals, one of which you just found. And a request is made for you to venture forth and collect these crystals. You wake up on the ground, apparently passed out from whatever that just was. The man is telling Lilira that what they had just fought was some sort of summoned creature, and he suspects that it took a great deal of power to bring that forth. You tell the man about the vision you just had, and he curiously seems to know exactly what you're talking about, but doesn't provide any extra detail. You then escort Lolira back to Papa Shan, who is very happy to see her alive and well. Lolira explains that she was out trying to find something very important that she believed to be missing, and she reluctantly agrees to return to the safety of the city's walls. You then tell Papa Shan of the white-haired man that came to save Lolira. Papa Shan seems to know this man well and tells you his name is Thancred, and that he is a scholar that studies things involving the ether. Finished with this encounter, you are in search for more work. You catch wind that there is a private mining operation nearby that is about to start a very profitable dig. You seek out the dig's leader, and you are hired as muscle to protect them while they work. You might wonder why you would need security during a dig. This is quickly answered when a group of corrupt military personnel attack the dig site, trying to claim the riches for themselves. However, this is all interrupted by a mysterious masked man who starts to chant. Suddenly, large boulders that are in the area start to combine into some sort of giant rock creature. Of course, the militiamen immediately run away. Cowards. Leaving you alone to face this monster. You easily dispatch this beast, and just as soon as he arrived, the masked man is now gone. Moments later, Thancred comes onto the scene, and you are thrust into another one of your visions, where you see Thancred flirting with some women. But he just so happens to hear some men nearby talking about recent caravan attacks. They mentioned the caravans were carrying crystals, and it was suspected that these crystals were required in summoning what's called a primal. Thancred mentions that the city's resources have been running low due to circumstances caused by the calamity and the primals. The vision ends and Thancred makes a phone call. Yeah, that's right. They got some kind of communicators. This always really confused me. Is there some Final Fantasy equivalent to the Can You Hear Me Now commercials that I haven't seen? Anyways, he tells the person who he's talking to on his communicator that the person that he had come to find has disappeared. We are then told to not trust a Lord Lolorito because he's the one that set this trap for us. We then head back to Ul'dah, where we get a quest that sends us to Horizon, the next town over. We are told that instead of walking there, we should take a chocobo, a much cuter version of an ostrich in my opinion, which serve as a taxi service in this game. In Horizon, we meet up with Donadin, who explains that Horizon is somewhat of a trade hub. As you could expect, it's very busy, which is why our services are required. Our character helps out where they can, killing stuff here, defending ourselves from brothers set on revenge there, and we get handsomely rewarded by the acting captain of Horizon, Fufalupa, who then entrusts us with a letter to take back to Ul'dah. The letter describing some shady dealings with the royal guard, and that a crown has been stolen from the royal family. We meet up with the guard that was entrusted with guarding the crown, and give him the note that we received from the captain of Horizon. The note is actually a ransom, demanding payment in exchange for the royal crown, and detailing a meeting spot in central Thanalan. The crown guard, Owen, requests that we follow him to the meeting spot as backup. Just like your typical Wednesday ransom meetup, they're not too happy that we came along and that the deal is off for breaking the terms of the agreement. However, Owen thinks he's a clever boy and tosses the baddies the collateral, which you can't even make this stuff up, is an artifact that will allow these bad guys to summon all kinds of demons. Which why wouldn't it be? Thanks a lot, Owen. And somehow that's not enough for these bad dudes, and they decide to try to kill you. But fear not, friends. The fearless, but short, but fearless Station Master Papa Shan shows up. And akin to Gandalf the White at Helm's Deep, he's packing heat. A gnarly battle ensues. We win the battle, but unfortunately, of course, one of the dudes ran away with the crown, as the rest of the party chases after the crown thief. We notice a black-robed figure emerging from some rocks. The Shadow Man says that he knows what the source of our power is, but we are still not powerful enough to best him. He summons a demon almost twice the size of what we had fought before. Luckily, always the savior Thancred shows up and we take down the demon. Then all that's left is Shadow Boy, who's pretty squishy by himself, so we dispatch him. As we leave the battleground, Thancred decides to finally open up about his shadowy dealings. He tells us that they have been tracking these shadowy figures for quite some time. These shadow figures call themselves Asians, He goes on to tell us that we are one of the gifted, but leaves it at that. A purple crystal catches our eye near the corpse of the Ascian. However, when we touch it, it disappears. We then return back to Ul'dah, where Papashan tells us that they were successful in tracking down the crown thief and that they retrieved the crown safe and sound. We are thanked personally by the Sultana Nanamo. She tells us the reward for our good deeds is to join her at the upcoming banquet. And that will be all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been your host Vizkla, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. And if you would like to see more of my content, click on over to my channel page where I'm probably live streaming right now. I added in a hidden image somewhere in this video. If you think you've found the hidden image, please leave it in the comments with the timestamp, and I'll pin the comment of the first person to find it. Good luck!